February 10th, 2005. My wife and I were married in Memphis, Tennessee. My wife is Swedish. I met her in Sweden. She's Swedish. We were married March 29th, 1995. However, in Memphis, Tennessee, February 10th, 2005, we went back to the place where the people allowed us to have our honeymoon in a very lavish home. And I had an open vision, February 10th, 2005. In this vision, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit were speaking, and Martin Luther King and I were there as well. I heard this conversation. And I'm not going to get into what the vision is, but I am going to say this. Within the next 30 to 60 days in our nation, you should be very, very sensitive to what's about to take place. Ron Paul, and this is another thing. Ron Paul is just the public persona of Ron Paul. What happens and what you see in public is just as important what happens with this man in secret. This man in secret, you need to pray for this man. In secret, the communication that we don't know and what's going on with he and his creator is very important, because what he's done, what has been done by Ron Paul has never been done. But we also have to be careful. In the Bible, God said, do not focus on you say you want a king. You have to be careful what you ask for. We must focus on what has kept this nation and what will keep this nation is the God of this Constitution. As far as leaders, you need a leader. You always need a conduit. You know, the Bible has always had a leader, but you need someone to connect and do and go forward. So that's all I have to say. I hope that I've articulated to Mr. Schultz, and I hope that you can sense that this man has attached himself to something that, in my opinion, is just as valuable as the Torah or the Bible. This is God's handprint. This is his signature. This is God speaking. This is God setting his man on certain men to make sure that we have to follow the rules. This is the rule book. This is the rule book. Let's get back to the basics. It's really simple. You know, we have the rule book, and let's just follow it. You know. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, Joanne. How are you?
I know that you served the appeal to the recount in New Hampshire a week ago Friday, and I've seen an email that goes out asking people from Bob asking people to write to the Board of Appeals in New Hampshire to contest certifying the vote. What's the window? What's the time frame on that? Do you have any idea?
Let me answer that and say this before I answer. I believe it's 14 days. Mr. Schultz can correct me. However, I received an email from the Assistant Attorney General, James Kennedy, just the other day. And we are on the edge of the precipice on the possibility of getting the hearing with the New Hampshire Ballot Law Commission. And I just felt chills when I said that, because Bob knows what we went through.
Yes.
He knows what we went through.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Prayer and fasting. People, you don't care what people think anymore. You just do what you know is right. This is very serious. And I'm scared to not do the right thing. I'm afraid if I don't listen and do what I'm supposed to do. That's where I'm at. That's how far my gut has been dug, you know. And I don't mean to get emotional, but this is just the way that it is. And I'm going to sit down, but this is the way that it is. This is where we are in our history. And you will be held accountable for it. Thank you very much.
Just signed a copy of this final report there, Albert. Thank you for your service to the Constitution and to our rights, freedoms, and liberties. Your friend.
Thank you.
Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name's Daniel Happney. This is The Real Story. With me today I have Mr. Albert Howard, and it turns out we're in Concord. Unlike some of us who are believing that we're in Lexington. But Albert, thanks first off for being on the show.
You're welcome.
And
You're welcome.
the people of Sharon, Massachusetts are going to be happy to know you once they get to meet you.
Okay.
What brought you here to Concord? And tell us a little bit about Albert and what's important to Albert and what you think that those people back in that lens should know, and what'll make them maybe better people. Go ahead. Tell us more about Albert.
Well, certainly the soil and the history of Colonial Inn speaks for itself. However, I was invited here today by Bob Schultz, We the People, to just briefly talk about my involvement as being the first African American to receive a New Hampshire primary recount, and to submit an official petition of appeal to the New Hampshire Ballot Law Commission. So basically I am still in this region awaiting the movement and the advance of the decision of the commission. We did submit an appeal.
Okay.
And however, prior to that, of course, I was in Concord, New Hampshire for several weeks with the recount taking place, and I was there and felt I had to be there every day. And
Thank you, by the way.
oh, you're welcome. I was also happy to see many of the observers that were at that recount on behalf of the Republican recount were here in this meeting today, and that just really touched me,
Excellent. Many of my viewers may not even be aware that there was a recount in New Hampshire, and that New Hampshire primary that, let's say, set the pace or set the mold or whatever you want to say for this present election period or whatever. Like I say, they're probably not even aware because their media, okay, unlike The Real Story, the show we do or whatever, doesn't always cover that. Once again, not really covered in the Boston Globe at any great extent, as you know, you live in the area now, but also too, even the major media didn't cover it and hasn't covered it. Like I say, the people of Sharon probably don't realize that, gee, there were things, inconsistencies, let's say, with the voting up in New Hampshire for the primary.
There was, in fact, a recount. January 8th, I was a part of the thrust to make sure that the recount took place. $55,600 was submitted to the Secretary of State's office, William Gardner's office, and that commenced, and it just ended on February 11th. But still, there are many issues and many irregularities simply because of the relationship between the Diebold optical scanner machines and the paper trail, the hand-counted votes, even though New Hampshire is one of the...
what they call like chain of custody for the actual paper itself?
Absolutely, chain of custody, exactly. So, and there's a lot of discrepancy that has taken place even in the protection and the integrity of those ballots in the office of the in Concord. That a lot of things, protocol wasn't followed. And
I found the stories where people were driving in excess of 90 miles an hour. Okay,
Yes,
with
yes.
ballots in their vehicles, meeting people in the
Yes.
interim stops or whatever. I found that very interesting. Also, too, now my listeners and stuff, or at least the wonderful people of Sharon, may or may not realize that was it that company? Was it LHS?
LHS Associates.
LHS Associates. That's right, Sharon. You should learn about LHS Associates. They are the ones who oversee the Diebold machines and have the contract in this case with New Hampshire.
Yes.
They may have it with Massachusetts. You all should check. Also, from what I understand, Connecticut, and I hear there's some problems they have in Connecticut as far as driving around with almost like ballot boxes. We'll call them memory cards for those Diebold machines. But yeah, I once again, I'm trying to give this just for listeners, and you can go tell us about it, but that was evidently the people that run LHS are convicted felons. Now, we, you and I, as citizens of the United States, are allowed to vote as long as we haven't committed a felony, in which case we would lose our right to vote.
You're
At least-
referring to Mr. Silvestro, I believe that's his name. That's the
He
one
has a
gentleman that
name.
has-
So
yeah.
these people that once again, that run the electronic voting machines or whatever, not only do they have names, but they have, let's say, criminal records and been convicted of felonies, and yet they're allowed to run corporations that count our vote.